Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be making something that is a staple in our diet, and I feel like I've made it probably about 1,000 times now. So we are making gut healing meat stock. This is something that Elliot and I drink every single day, and yeah, this recipe can be tailored easily to whatever you have in your kitchen. I'm going to share the full recipe of my favorite way to make it that is, I feel, the most delicious, and that's because to me it tastes like you are just drinking a delicious cup of chicken noodle soup. But yeah, this recipe can be stripped down to be something as simple as just using your meat and bones and salt. Or you can add in aromatics like onions, garlic, and herbs and stuff like that, which is how I will be making it today, which in my opinion is the tastiest way, but it's not necessary to add all those things. So yes, this is one of my favorite recipes and I am excited to share it with you. I've had a few people saying that they want to know how I make this, so I decided it was time to do this video. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy and I hope you try it. Let me know if you do try it in the comments, if you liked it and how it turned out for you. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So I also wanted to note that meat stock is different than bone broth. A lot of people get the two confused and don't really understand the difference between the two. But meat stock is made with bones and joints and meat. And it is cooked for a much shorter time than bone broth, and it is more gentle and healing and restorative for your gut if you have leaky gut, or yeah, just gut dysbiosis or issues. The meat stock will be more gentle and healing than bone broth, and you kind of, with this diet that we've been following, you start out with the meat stock and then eventually you get to the bone broth, but the meat stock is what you want to do first. And yeah, like as I said, you're using the meat as well as bones that have the cartilage and the joints and stuff like that, because that's where you're going to get the really good gelatinous, thick, jiggly broth that you want, and that's what you're looking for if you are looking to heal any gut issues. So yeah, just wanted to clarify that, the difference between meat stock and bone broth, because a lot of people are confused on that. And I will share in this recipe exactly how long you're supposed to cook this broth, in particular when you're doing chicken, because that's what we're going to be doing today. So yes, just wanted to clarify that, and let's get into it. So this may really gross some people out, but in this recipe I put chicken feet. These are actually extremely good for your gut health, and they help you get that really gelatinous effect to your broth. And so I have here about 7 chicken feet, and they still have the skins on them. So I'm going to bring some water to a boil back there and then dump these in, scald them for a while. I'll write in the recipe exactly how many minutes. And then that will help the skin and whatever dirt or debris or anything that was on them to be stripped away, and they will be nice and clean and sanitized, and we can add them to our meat stock. I also recognize that not everybody will be able to have access to things like chicken feet, and it isn't necessary to make this recipe. So if you don't have chicken feet or you can't access them, it's not a problem. You don't have to add them in, but we were able to get some from a friend of ours that raises their own chickens. Shout out to Sarah Justice. Thank you for these chicken feet. But yeah, since we were able to source them, I love to put them in when I can. But if you don't have them, it's okay. You don't need them. All right, so my water is boiling here. take the chicken feet and drop them in, and I'm going to set a timer for about 30 seconds. So they just need to scald for about 30 seconds. And I'll take them out, run them under cold water, and the skin should peel right off. Set my timer here. Actually just changed my mind. I think I'm going to scald them for a minute straight. So we'll do them for a minute in the scalding water. That'll give it a chance to come back up to a boil. Okay, so it's probably been going a little over a minute. Just took me a minute to get this colander situated. So I'm gonna pour them into the sink in this colander. I'm gonna spray cold water over them to stop the cooking process. This just helps the skin come off easier and not stick to the cartilage. Sometimes it's kind of hard with all the little grooves and stuff to get it to come off. Just kind of just got to work around it. Kind of slippery, but once you can get a good grip on it, it really does peel off pretty well. Like that. It's helpful to cut the nails off as well. I just remembered that from when I did it before. It helps the skin come off a lot easier when you cut the nails off first. The first time I did this, I was pretty disturbed and grossed out, but I just decided that I had to channel my inner Ma Ingalls and pretend that I was living on a farm out in the prairies, and that the only food we could have we raised, and so I had to use every last bit of the bird. And honestly, it's not so bad now that I've done it a few times. All right, so I am just going to actually use 5 of these chicken feet because I'm doing chicken legs as well. And just adding chicken legs alone with, well, you could just do them by themselves or add them with a whole chicken, and that will make a good, really nice gelatinous broth. But yeah, so I feel like I only need to add 5 of these chicken feet. I think that I did scald them a little too long. I probably should have stuck with the 30 seconds because it was pretty hard to peel them. The skin started to stick to the feet. So yeah, I would stick with the 30 seconds scalding time. But yeah, this is what they're looking like, and I'm about to throw them in the pot. All right, so for this broth recipe, these are the staples that I love to add in. Like I said, I don't add every single thing every time, just depends on what I have on hand. But since this is my favorite way to make it, I thought that I would do a recipe with all these different ingredients. So here I have 2 stalks of celery, I have bay leaves, I have some rosemary, a sprig of rosemary, fresh garlic. I'll probably just cut this in half and then throw the whole thing in there. I usually do a tablespoon or 2 of peppercorns, probably just 1 tablespoon of peppercorns, 3 carrots, and 1 whole onion that I will cut in half and throw in. So that is what I have for everything that adds that yummy flavor that tastes like chicken noodle soup. And then I do a whole chicken when I can. I love to source locally at farms, pasture-raised chickens. That's not always available. So sometimes I'll just get the organic from the store or the free range. No antibiotics and no growth hormones or steroids. That's always what I look for. And in regards to the chicken feet as well, I would say definitely try to source from a local farm. I never buy those at the store. Always get those from a local farm. So then I do chicken legs. I don't know, I probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, probably around 10 or so chicken legs. So this is going to make a pretty big pot, and I'll show you how far I fill up the water once I have everything in the pot. All right, so this is my wonderfully large pot that was gifted to me by my mother. I love this pot so much. This is my meat stock making pot. This is tried and true, has been used lots and lots of times making this recipe. I'm gonna set it down in the sink here. And first I put in the whole chicken. That's the largest ingredient. And then next I'll put in the chicken feet. I'll count exactly how many I have. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, so I have 12, sorry, not chicken feet, chicken legs. And then we'll do the 5 chicken feet. And then all the aromatics here, the onion in. And then a tablespoon of peppercorns. So these just add really nice flavor and color to your broth, and also I have heard that they help draw out some of the nutrients out of the chicken. So I do about a hair over a tablespoon of those. And then the garlic cloves here. Throw that whole thing in. This rosemary sprig, celery, and bay leaves. Oh, and then I can't forget the most important. All right, so I forgot. Of course I did, because I'm filming this. When you cook broth, there is a substance that will float to the top that I have heard it called scum, but you don't want that to be in your broth. So as it boils, this like white foamy stuff will bubble up, and I'll show you the mesh strainer I have to scrape it out. And I always do this before I add all these ingredients, but of course because I'm filming I forgot. So I'm going to take these back out and I will get it boiling, and then I'll show you that process of scraping that scum off of the top. So typically the rule of thumb is that you want enough water to just cover your meat and your bones. But since I have so many chicken legs in there as well as chicken feet, I know that this is going to be a nice gelatinous thick meat stock once it cools. So I know that I can stand to add a little more water than I typically would, and it'll give me a little more broth, but I will still get that good quality gelatinous content in the broth. So I will show you exactly how much water I will add. Oh, we do not have AC in our car. And my hair is usually all kinds of crazy by the time I get to where I'm going. Anyways, this is a little fun intermission between starting and finishing making meat stock, because note to self, I need to remember to make sure that when I'm filming a video on making meat stock that I have enough water in the house. So we can't drink our tap water because it's just city water. So we ran out of filtered water. So I had to run to this grocery store. Thankfully it's only like 4 minutes away from our house, but yeah, I had to put a little pause on making the meat stock. So I'm gonna hop out, get some water, and we'll see you back at the house. Okay, so I started this while I left, and because it was boiling so rapidly, the scum that I was talking about stuck to the sides. This is usually what happens if it's at a rapid boil for a long time. But yeah, this is the icky stuff that you would want to scrape out, and you would not want to keep that in your broth. Normally that would just be floating on the surface there, and I would use something like this to just scrape it out. But I will take a paper towel and just kind of wipe out the sides there. Yeah, this is just kind of what I do. Ooh, it's really foggy. Yeah, I just kind of take a paper towel, wipe off the sides. It's okay if you don't get it perfect right away towards the end. You can always scrape more off if more surfaces. So I completely forgot a very important ingredient. I never added parsley earlier, but that is also an herb that I love to add. So it has returned to a boil here, and I'm just gonna turn the heat down and let it go at a low boil for anywhere from 1.5 to 3 hours. I like for it to go the full 3 hours typically, but since it's evening now and we're getting a little later in the day, probably just do 2.5. But yeah, that is the time that is appropriate for making meat stock. I know bone broth can go for a lot longer than that, but meat stock is a completely different product. So all right, so good morning. It is the next day. Had this in the fridge overnight all night, and then pulled it back out to reheat so that I could yeah, just strain it into the jars. I start out by straining it into a 4-cup measuring cup. It's just the largest size that I have, and I use this cheesecloth. I found that this works the best for straining your broth. Just put it directly over whatever container that you're filling it into. And then I like to use a funnel. I still might spill some, but I found that a funnel helps you pour easiest into jars from the pitcher. All right, so I removed all the cooked veggies and the chicken feet here. This is what I'm gonna pitch, and then I'll put the meat over there because I'm going to pick that off the bones and then save that. One of the uses that I really like the cooked meat for is to make chicken salad or like barbecue chicken. We do that a lot to use up this meat because if you're making broth regularly, Depends on the cuts that you're using, but if you're using these kinds, like the chicken legs and the whole chicken, you'll have a good bit of cooked chicken that you need to use up. So, would you like to help?
Yeah. That's a hot burn.
That one's not too hot.
Short.
Alright, so now that the stock has cooled down, I've transferred it into some freezer Ziploc bags. I know it may seem kind of strange to freeze meat stock in Ziploc bags, but it's actually less risky than doing it in glass jars, because if you fill the glass jars too full, and sometimes even if you have the correct amount in the glass jars, they can burst. And that's very, very sad when you put all that work into making your beautiful meat stock and you have to throw it out because there's glass shards in it. So that is why I have decided to freeze this in these Ziploc jars. I already have a half gallon of meat stock in the fridge that I had made earlier in the week, so I won't need this yet. So a great solution is just freezing it and pulling it out and thawing it when you're ready for it. So I had a little mystery spill. I'm still not exactly sure how it happened, but I had to clean this section up, and then I would just recommend putting your Ziploc bags of meat stock in a container, whether that's a glass 9x13 like I have or something else, but just make sure they're upright, because I think somehow just a little bit got out of the bag. But just wanted to throw that little helpful tip in there so you don't repeat my mistake. Okay, so this is what we've got going on here with the consistency of the broth. As you can see, it's very jelly and got that good jiggle going on. And it basically is like Jello, which this is exactly what you want to look for when you are making your meat stock. It's just so beautiful, makes me so happy. When your meat stock turns out like this, like basically like Jello, you know that it is going to be an excellent tool in your toolbox to help you achieve good gut health and just to help repair any damage that has been done to your gut lining. I've been heard it described that this is the glue that heals and seals your gut lining. So, really happy with the way this turned out. Alrighty, so that will wrap up this chicken meat stock recipe. I hope you guys enjoyed and I hope you try it. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions. I am going to put this recipe in the description box, so all the ingredients, all the instructions, everything will be listed in the description box. So if you're gonna make this, go ahead and head down there and check that out, and happy cooking.
Feet up on the dash and the calling open road. Road trip classics on the radio. With your hand tied in mine, there's no such thing as time. Now we can go anywhere you wanna go. Ooh, there's no place we can go. Ooh, my home is when I'm alone with you. follow me tonight. I'll walk with you for life. And we can go anywhere.
Did you find one? Oh, he's getting a lot.
There's no place we can go. Ooh, my home is when I'm alone with you. With you. With feet up on the dash and the calling open road. Road trip classics on the radio.
It is the most glorious, moody evening. There's thunder,
No such thing as
mist everywhere from the storm that just rolled through. It's perfect.
there's no place we
Wow. Cool trick.
when
Ready to go bye-bye? Yeah. Okay, let's go.
you.